Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Telford and Wrekin Council Planning Committee. This evening's meeting is held in public to ensure all those involved or interested in the planning applications can see and hear how the decisions are made. It is important that the speakers are able to present their information without interruption and that the council members of the committee are able to hear and consider the material presented. Only those people who have been notified are able to speak. I'd ask everyone else to remain quiet, not to interrupt the meeting and to allow the members to make their decisions. I remind everyone that council meetings can be photographed or recorded, and I ask all participants to recognise the importance of the planning process. And please leave everyone silent or turn off their mobile phones. Okay. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Gemma Offland and Councillor Bob Wennington is substitute.
Thank you. All the rest of them are present. Item 2, declarations of interest. Amric.
Chair, I'm the member of the Oakengate Town Council. I'm a councillor on the Oakengate Town Council. So, Chair, I haven't done any discussion or anything about this one, but
Okay.
having said that, I'm still a council. Member of the council.
Peter.
Yeah, I'd just like to bring the committee's attention to a conversation I had on social media with a lady. It was a conversation about good faith. It was relating to a comment she made about this application, but in no way did I show any predetermination, and I will not even determine this until I've heard speakers and I've heard the rest of the committee and officers talk. So what I'm actually saying is openly, I have a complete open mind on this one and will not make a decision until the end of the discussions.
Thank you, Peter. Any other declaration of interest? No. Item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Are there true and correct record?
Yes, Chair.
Somebody move it?
Yeah.
All agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 4, deferred stroke withdrawn applications.
There are none, Chair.
None at all, no. Item 5 is site visits.
There are none planned yet, Chair.
Thank you. Item 6 is the planned application for determination. And the first one we've got is 6.1, TWC 2022-0924. That's yours, Katie.
Thank you, Chair. Before I begin the presentation, I hope members have all seen the written update that was circulated with some information that was received after the committee report was published. I also have a short verbal update as well, which is that since the written update was distributed to you, we have received 3 further letters of representation. One of these was a letter of objection, which didn't raise any further material objections not already covered, and then 2 letters of support for the scheme. Another matter of detail I'd like to bring your attention to is that in the main report, paragraph 8.10.3 is talking about the planning obligations. That's page 25. Where the paragraph says that we anticipated the cost of the bus shelter upgrade to be between £11,000 and £12,000, and we would update you when we had an exact figure on that. The exact figure will be £10,528.80. So if members are minded to move the recommendation tonight, that will need to be reflected in the resolution. That's
Is that one shelter or?
That is for one shelter, yes.
What was that again?
The figure was £10,528.80. Thank you. That's the end of the updates. By way of initial introduction, this...
Thanks, Janice.
So this application proposes the demolition of 6 retail units, the refurbishment of 14 existing retail units, the creation of 10 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, as well as an improved public realm area. Thank you, Chair.
Katie. Mr. Nigel Booth, you you wanted to address the committee for 3 minutes. You applied in time, or just about in time.
What to address now?
Yeah, please. Three minutes you've got.
Someone tell me when to start. Can the screen in a minute or? So, good evening, Nigel Booth. I have a flooring shop in Oakengates. I've had it for 20 years. First, I think money needs to be spent on Oakengates Centre, but not as proposed. Albeit no planning permission has yet been given, Oakengates community believe this development is a done thing because a mighty Telford and Wrekin communications, publicity newsroom keeps implying to them such. New photos show retail on both sides of the proposed open space. Not true, because the gateway on one side is bordered by the old Woolworths store, now called the Wakes, with unsightly barred windows and an old-fashioned mural. My objection is on the basis that full impact and sequential tests with regard to the change of use requested by the applicant have clearly not been undertaken. The applicant's proposal will in fact have a negative impact on the future of Oakengates town as a viable shopping centre. Also, I feel the gateway area selected is through ill judgment, probably because no member of the Telford Town Fund Board who actually thought up the proposal was an Oakengates resident, an Oakengates trader or an Oakengates town councillor. It will not be a main gateway, as 95% of theatre goers approach the theatre from its car park side, and most town shops will not benefit as they will be closed during performances. Most likely the area will be used at night by tramps, drunks, yobs, as a refuge and urinating alley. Reducing occupied shop units by such a large amount will not enhance the existing footfall for the remaining shops. Over recent years, the properties concerned that have been demolished had six-figure sums spent on them. A new development will stick out as an eyesore into Market Street, an old Roman road, and have the wrong impact on the town. Local Chamber of Trade support has been stated, yet it's a recently unelected, fresh start-up chamber with the same 6 businesses attended who started it. I'm one of the businesses, so they're not unanimously supporting the development. New Place say they build homes for specific tenants in mind and are available to vet them. But do New Place have experience with such apartments? The accommodation has no easy access for older people or disabled people, both suited to town centre living. The accommodation has no dedicated parking. Its apartment entrance points are from an open rear landing above a service yard, so how will the apartments appeal to the usual New Place vetted tenants? A potential space for 27 market stores is a myth. The Parish Council have struggled to get half a dozen market pitches in Limes Walk, even rent-free. A theatrical extension to the theatre or leisure area of any kind will need a dedicated public toilet facility, yet the nearby toilet block has recently been sold by the council. Finally, I feel this application needs a full rethink or be delayed for consideration following last month's announcement that Telford Theatre is to be remodelled from part of another £20 million government-funded levelling up grant. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. Katie, it's back to you.
Thank you.
You resume your seat in the audience, please, Mr. Booth.
Pardon?
Resume your seat in the audience.
Thank you.
Right, I'll just wait for the plans to come back up. We've got some visuals. There we go. Okay. So these proposals, as you'll...
Can you use a speaker, please? A speaker, yeah. Can't
No, they're not for that, are they?
I don't think that's for... I'll speak up.
You have to
There we go. I'll speak up.
Speak up, Katie, please.
Okay.
Yes.
No problem. So these proposals focus on Oakengates Town Centre and in particular the area between Limes Walk and Market Street. The application can be broken down into 4 parts. So there's the demolition of the 6 units. In fact, this is the demolition plan. This is a good one to talk to. It's the demolition of the 6 units in the centre and the removal of their service yards, which can be seen from Theatre Square. Then there's the reconfiguration of 14 existing ground floor retail units, which are located on the right of the picture there and going up Limes Walk. And that would also include the improvement of their shop frontages. There'd be improvement to the Public Realm Plaza, which is in front of Telford Theatre. Its extension down towards Market Street and more landscaping. And you can see that indicated by the purple hatched area on the plans. And then finally there's the conversion of the first floor space above the 14 retail units. It's ancillary commercial space. It's either underused, if it's office space or it's storage space. So the proposals are to convert those into 10 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Now the key planning policy to consider here is whether the loss of these 6 retail units can be supported. And the relevant framework for this comes from policy EC6, which identifies that there are 4 key considerations. So to go through these 4 considerations, the first one is that it must not harm the retail character of the district centre. Now the existing retail businesses are being retained, and the new public space will provide the opportunity for additional businesses to be part of the town centre on a pop-up or rotating basis. I think it's important to recognise at this stage that this is a springboard towards future regeneration opportunities in Oakengates. It's not attempting to fix everything straight away, but it is a stepping stone. The second key consideration in policy terms is whether it would complement the shopping function of the existing of the centre. So again, the retail businesses are being rehoused and accommodated and kept within the town centre, and you've got the addition of what can take place in the expanded public realm area to complement the existing activities. Thirdly, there must not be a concentration of more than 3 adjacent similar non-retail uses. Particularly this would be thinking about perhaps some hot food takeaways and that sort of thing. There are 2 dedicated units for food outlets, which are 41 and 43 Market Street, so they're right at the bottom of the plan, fronting onto Market Street. The rest of them are not intended for those uses. So all those retail uses in the rest of Market Street and Limes Walk, they would be retained. And then fourthly, they must not have a significant adverse impact on surrounding amenity. So things like noise, odour, waste, highways and parking. As you'll have seen from the report, our consultees in environmental health and highways support the application subject to conditions. So the proposals are not considered to have a detrimental impact in terms of that consideration either. And on that basis, it meets the key policy of EC6 for the district centre. There are many positives that these are to be taken from these proposals in terms of the urban design qualities they offer. Removing those 6 retail units in the centre would remove physical and visual barriers between Market Street, Limes Walk and the main car park, and this in turn would improve the connectivity through the town, the legibility, and create spaces that feel more open, safe and welcoming. And these are fundamental attributes of any regeneration scheme that is seeking to make a place more inviting for more people to visit more frequently. The improvement to the shop fronts will improve the visual appearance and the quality of the built environment, and the introduction of a larger public realm area creates the opportunity for more diverse activities, such as markets and community activities, adding to the vibrancy of the town. The appearance of the town centre would also be improved through the removal of the existing retail properties, which have got their own management and maintenance issues, and the removal of the service yards backing onto Limes Walk. The proposals include alterations and improvements to a number of existing retail units along Limes Walk. The existing canopy along Limes Walk and Market Street would be removed to open up the area and create a more welcome approach as well as more natural light. The glazed shop fronts on a number of retail units, they were replaced as part of a regeneration package in 2014. These would be retained and the new glazed shop fronts designed to match the existing units to add that feeling of continuity. The existing external security shutters would also be removed and replaced with new internal ones to improve the appearance. In terms of energy performance, the refurbished buildings would be improved through new cavity walls and insulation, as well as the installation of solar panels above the residential units. The retail units would continue to be owned and managed by the applicant. All residential units would meet the national space standards and address a housing need within the borough. You may have noticed from the affordable housing comments in the report that because they're all based at first floor level, they don't meet the M42 or the M43 category because they need to be accessed by stairs. So new players would be targeting them at a particular demographic who does need a certain type of housing. It wouldn't be suitable for disabled people, it might not be suitable for older people. They are targeting it towards younger people who may be young professionals who can bring more money into the town centre, making it a more economic driven regeneration scheme. But they do all meet the NDSS space standards. So on balance, it's taken that given what the overall aims of the scheme are, that we can accept this type of housing in this area. There's no dedicated parking proposed as part of the redevelopment, as the council-owned public car parks accessed off New Street and Market Street are free to use, and you'll have seen from the main report that the highways officer supports that. Not only that, but the application is supported by all consultees. The applicant has agreed to make Section 106 payments to improve the bus stop on Lion Street, which would include electrification, I think, as part of the upgrade, and the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions and the Section 106. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Katie. It's open to the committee. Who wants to go first? Peter.
Yeah, just a quick question really. The idea of regenerating any town centre is on the whole a good thing, I think. You know, and most towns would welcome it. I read what people are saying for and against, and I can understand both sides of it. There was something picked out by the speaker there about the public realm area possibly being used by drunks urinating, etc. You know, what is going to be in place there? What will be in place in terms of CCTV or control of that kind of issue, so that it wouldn't be an attractor for that kind of person, but would in actual fact be the kind of area that the application suggests it will be?
It's always difficult to quantify that because we're talking about elements of human behaviour that none of us are responsible for managing, and the planning system is not, you know, very limited, if incapable of anything in terms of actually being able to control what people do. Decision to put CCTV up would be a decision for the applicant or for any landowner. We wouldn't be able to insist upon that as part of the planning. So again, it's antisocial behaviour is not something that we can't really control. It's a lot of speculation as to whether that would actually take place or not.
I understand that, but if that's the case, if it's a possibility, wouldn't the consideration for extra CCTV be useful? Or can it be made, please? Yeah, it could be conditioned, couldn't it? Yeah.
No.
I think that's a matter really for the wider council, as the wider council will look after the area afterwards, and then in terms of being proactive around any antisocial behaviour if that occurs. But we haven't got anything within the...
It's a disappointment that the
policies.
local council didn't have any comments at all, from what I can see. I'm surprised that, but even that. So I don't know how we move that on in terms of the local council covering that, but I think from what this chap's saying, something ought to be considered should this get passed, because it could easily, I mean, you see it elsewhere, it could become an attractor, and that wouldn't be the case. But that's all that said, I can see that from the drawings and the impressions that we see, it would be quite a pleasant improvement. Can you categorically say to us that no one's going to lose their living or their employment because of this change?
I'm not in the position to make those kinds of guarantees. What I can say, based on the information I've been provided with, is that all of the businesses that are in the town centre that are losing the unit, they've all been in active negotiations to be rehoused within the town centre. And I think the report says that's been achieved for all but one of the businesses, and the reason that business has not been allocated a unit yet is because it's all part of a bigger picture, and it might take a few months to sort those things out. But I think
there are no net losses.
There's no net losses that I'm aware of. The intention is to be able to accommodate everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Just kind of from Councillor Scott's point, is there going to be a time
when the shops can't trade. So when you want them out, knock it down. Is there a gap, obviously, when they can move in? So there's going to be a time when they can't do any trading, therefore there could be a loss there.
I haven't been made aware of the timescales for doing that. Thinking about it, there's going to come a point when there's a demolition and that the units would need to be refurbished before they could move into that. Now, I don't have any information on how that side of it would fit together. That falls outside of the planning remit, essentially, but I'm sure that the applicant has got that in hand as part of the negotiations that they're having to try and make it as seamless as possible.
Okay. And just kind of any property that doesn't do with planning either. Will the traders have to pay more for these new units than they pay for the present units, i.e. the rent?
I don't have that information because that wouldn't form part of the planning determination.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody welcome in.
Sorry, I've just been passed information in terms of that there is CCTV in the area and it's being relocated to suitable areas as part of this afterwards, but it doesn't, because it's being done by the council as a separate issue, it doesn't form part of the planning application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Amric.
Chair, will these business be relocated before the demolition starts? Will be offered alternative accommodation before all this process starts?
Will the businesses be relocated
Yeah.
as part of that? That's not information that I've been given as part of the application. Again, it's outside of the planning considerations for this. I'm sure that the applicant is, as the applicant owns the current buildings and is looking to move existing tenants into new properties, logic would suggest that they're having those conversations to make it as least disruptive as possible. But again, in terms of the planning merits of the application, that issue falls outside of what we can consider and whether it's an acceptable development or not.
It does say in here that all those businesses, those losing that place, has been offered alternative accommodation in the high street.
Yes, everybody that wants to stay in Oaken Gates Town Centre has been given the opportunity to stay within the town centre.
And they have accepted it? You don't know yet?
Again, that's not part of
Planning.
the planning discussions. I know that there's a lot of different conversations having with a lot of different business owners and tenants.
Janice.
Parking. I'm not sure who owns the car parks in the area, but you have mentioned that we want to encourage professional people into these flats, and professional people will normally have a car. Is there any way that we could link this in with some sort of parking areas or areas of parking that are linked to those flats?
Yeah, the highways officer felt comfortable with the proposals because the car parks in the area are council owned and don't have any time restrictions on them, so they didn't feel that was going to be an issue in that respect. Also with the loss of the actual physical built floor space of units, there wouldn't be a net increase in that respect to give us concerns in terms of parking. So they felt happy with that. Plus, with the improvements to the public transport and the bus shelters, that's adding more to the public transport offer in the area. So, as the council owns the car parks and they're not restricted in any way, the recommendation is that we're comfortable.
Can I just say, we've had these things in the past where there hasn't been car parking charges and then they're bought in. Could we not build in that if car parking charges are bought in, that they are allocated some parking? Is that not viable?
My understanding is it's not the intention for the council to change the parking arrangements on these car parks at the moment. As the flats are going to be owned by New Place, there's perhaps more of an opportunity for that conversation to happen between council departments in the future if that becomes an issue. But at the moment, it's not an issue, and it's not expected to become one.
Graham.
If more on the parking, is there going to be any electrical charging points put on that car park? Because everybody's going electrical with cars.
No, because electric charging points can be quite difficult to deliver for residential schemes if they're not dedicated to an exact plot, unless you've got like a dedicated communal parking area. That's not the intention here at the moment. Whether there's going to be any generic electric vehicle charging points in those car parks in the future, I'm not aware of any plans, although it is something that we may see rolled out, but that's not something we could link specifically to this set of proposals for the flats involved, because it's a public car park.
Ian.
Yes, Chairman. This is quite an interesting application, but I do have a few concerns about it. I note in paragraph 8.3.6, the odour assessment concludes that there will be smells produced in this area. In fact, are produced at the present time and will continue to be it. And as they're going to designate 2 of the new units for actually food outlets, which will produce smells and odour, does this mean that the people living in the flats are going to be assailed by horrible smells from cooking kebabs and things every night? Which I think is totally inappropriate. With regard to the car parking for the flats, we do, I believe, in our local plan have parking standards which we are supposed to apply. But it seems that this application and the Highways Department section have decided to completely ignore them. Is this going to be the future for our local plan, that if it's not convenient, the planning department and highways sections will completely ignore our plans for the future? It really means, you know, is it worthwhile having a local plan if you're going to ignore them if it's convenient so you can get things through? And the other thing is, I've read very carefully, you're going to have a big area outside the flats, next door to, adjacent to the new food outlets, so there is going to be problems with late night noise, people coming from the pub and going for a kebab or something like that, and there will be litter and, as mentioned by the resident, quite possibly urination in this area. So it's going to create a bit of a health hazard and be detrimental, I think, to Oaken Gates. So can you, the officer, explain why I should support this on those grounds?
Right, well, to start with the matter of odour, it does set, well, firstly, members may be aware that when a business, a food-related business that needs mechanical extraction and ventilation equipment wishes to move into a premises, they need to get to permission for the equipment in the first place. So although we know that 2 of those units are intended to be used for this type of business, they would have to submit details in the future of the extraction and odour equipment that they want to use anyway. So I'm happy that that deals with the first point, that they would need to get approval for that. In terms of the parking standards, the highways officer in section 8.5 did go to some trouble to explain why they felt it was appropriate to make an on-balance decision in favour of this application, despite the absence of dedicated parking, in which he has pointed out that it's a highly sustainable location, well served by public transport, and as we've already covered, all the car parks are owned by the council and are not restricted, and are in good proximity to the flats that we're talking about. So he has made a specific comment that the merits of the application are such that the local highways authority is prepared to accept the departure from the local plan parking standards in this case. And as we know, we take all cases on their merits and look at everything on balance where we need to. In terms of the third point, late night noise, litter, they are possible things, but let's remember that these types of businesses that are selling late night food, they're there in Oaken Gates already, so that could already happen. It's very difficult for any of us to judge whether anybody's going to decide to do anything antisocial in that space. If we take a look at the visual we've got up there now, which shows you the space that's going to be created, and if you compare that to the two very narrow, dark alleyways that are there at present, I think it's for members to decide for themselves in their own minds which of these two spaces is most likely to attract antisocial behaviour. The space that's going to be open, well lit, and as we've just heard, covered by CCTV, or two very narrow, dark alleyways that are currently not covered by CCTV and provide you a lot of shadowy, dark places where people may decide to do something antisocial, and that's for members to form their own judgment on.
Okay. Nigel?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I've shared some of the concerns. I've just got some comments to make and then some questions to ask. I do think, though, that overall it seems a bit of a wasted opportunity. Should be regeneration, and the danger is we get degeneration. There just doesn't seem to be much innovation to it at all. And I think really that, you know, sort of, you know, it's government money. And you know, Oaken Gates are very lucky to get some money to spend on it, and it's just a shame that it's perhaps not what a lot of the people who live in Oaken Gates want. I mean, on 4.1 on the report, I mean, it says that there was no relevant planning history, yet there was regeneration works done 9 years ago. So I would have thought that they would have been relevant to this particular application. I share the surprise with Councillor Scott that with such and it has been quite a contentious application with all the press, etc. That Oaken Gates Town Council hasn't got any comments to make. I would have thought they would have been leading the charge on a response to this. And so I'd be very interested to know why they don't make any comments. Perhaps they don't support it. Perhaps we need to read that into it, because I would have expected them to have been supportive of something that's right outside their door. On 8.3.6, I also admit I've never come across this before, where the odour from cooking operations is regarded as part of the character of the area. That's quite interesting, that is. But you know, as has been brought out by Councillor Fletcher, the thing is that yes, there may be hot food takeaways in the area at the moment, but currently there's nobody actually living on top of them. I mean, the flats themselves. You know, I'm fully supportive of bringing people to live in town centres, because that is one of the main elements of being able to regenerate the centre. But the thing is, though, that these dwellings need to be habitable and to attract people who have got disposable income. And I'm not sure that a set of flats whereby you can't open the windows, you've got medium high risk averse day and night noise and smells. You can only get up there by stairs, and there's no amenity space, so you can't even, there's nowhere even to dry the washing. So, you know, sort of, they really are only suitable for the fully able-bodied who are deaf and have no sense of smell and have no other medical conditions. So that should be an interesting demographic for new place to fill. I mean, the thing is if we were proposing private residential, well, then you've got people who have got disposable income and people who may be commuting to Birmingham and Shrewsbury or wherever, because there's a railway station there. It's the most perfect it's the most perfect location to have a commuter community and a cafe society. Yet it's not going to happen. Well, certainly not on this particular application. I'm quite interested that on the public consultation, I'd like the officers to list the changes that have been made to this application as a result of the various public consultations, because the thing is that as we've seen in the report and the update and the consultation letters, sort of whoever has been consulted certainly doesn't think they've had any input into it. So I think it'd be quite important at this stage that we find out what has changed as a result of the public consultation, and that might reassure some of the people who fear that, or a vast majority of people, it would appear, who feel that they haven't been listened to. Can the officer also confirm there's no mention of asbestos in here at all, which could be quite a major consideration? So has an asbestos survey been done? And if so, sort of it should have been in the report, because obviously that could be quite serious and will require specialised removal. And sorry. No. I'm nearly finished. Oh, sorry. And and finally, I'm just a bit intrigued because the money being spent is a government grant, and it's mentioned that there's no affordable housing in here because they're reducing profit margin. Well, hang on a minute. It's the council that owns the building. It's the council that owns New Place, and it's government, and they're using government money to do it with. So I'm not too sure how profit and viability comes into the equation. Perhaps you could explain that as well, please.
Right then, I'm not sure if I'm expected to comment on Oakham Gates Town Council. I'm not sure we can read anything into whether or not they have. No, they've.
But we can confirm they have been consulted.
Yeah.
Have they been listened to? That's the question.
No.
But no comments have been received by the local planning authority, and it's at their opportunity whether to comment or not and how to comment. However, I can confirm consultations have been done, and I've checked that on the system.
Amric.
I'm a member of the council because being on the planning committee, I wasn't able to join in any sort of consultation because that's illegal for me to be there. When they discussed that, so I couldn't comment what they said didn't say.
Nigel, be assured the town councils were actually consulted. They choose not to make any comment. That is up to that town council. And your comment about were they listened to is actually wrong. So you know it's wrong, Nigel. They are consulted. If they make no comment, that's it. Sorry, Katie.
Sorry, thank you, Jeff. Again, in terms of paragraph 8.3.6 and odour being a character of the area, this was the environmental health specialist's view, making the point that it's a town centre where you do see these sorts of businesses. You'll have seen from the list of conditions as well as other details in the report that measures are put in place to safeguard the amenity of the residents living above. It's something that we've looked at very carefully as a planning authority, because I fully agree people living above commercial premises need to have their amenity protected. So the assessment, the noise assessment has gone into details like what are the materials going to be between the ground and first floor? Is it going to be sufficient to make sure that noise is reduced as far as possible? Is there going to be mechanical extraction and ventilation? How is that going to work? How far above the windows is it going to be positioned to make sure that it doesn't have an impact on the amenity of those future residents? So all of that has been taken into account. In terms of the public consultation, I'm not clear, Councillor Dugmore, whether you mean the public consultation undertaken as part of the planning application or whether what was undertaken prior to the application coming in and changes made in respect to that. Which type of consultation was it?
All of it.
All of it. Okay. In terms of any consultation undertaken prior to the application coming in, that's not something that the planning authority would necessarily be party to, because we see the application when it arrives with us. We don't necessarily see what happens prior to that. So that is at the applicant's discretion. There haven't been any changes made to the application as such since it came in, because none of the consultation responses that came in warranted amendments, in the sense of when people are objecting just to the principle of something, the only way you can amend it is to not have the application. So, you know, there's very little that could be amended in that respect in terms of the comments that were coming in. An asbestos survey has been undertaken, and any found, you know, will be removed. So I believe that's been dealt with. Could you just repeat your point about affordable housing, please?
Yeah, the profit. Where does profit come into it? Because it's government money for regeneration. The council own the property. The council owns everything. So effectively it's a council application. So I just wondered why is profit and viability an issue?
That's a side of the business model that, as a planning officer, I wouldn't get involved in to any great degree. I know that there are different ways of funding affordable housing and different types of affordable housing, and in order for New Place to be able to deliver these flats in this particular area, for one thing, it didn't work out well, because to have affordable housing in situ, you would need a registered provider in this location. Now, as New Place would own the first floor flats and the council would also own the ground floor retail units, you would effectively have the same landowner, the same manager managing that whole building. If you started portioning them off and having a registered provider taking 25% of the flats, you're going to end up dividing who owns and manages those parts of the building. That makes it very difficult to keep on top of that management. It's not actually favourable to a registered provider to be able to do that. And that begins having an impact on the viability as well. The other sides of the business model I cannot really comment on.
Hasn't that happened elsewhere, where Wrekin Housing Group had taken over the affordable element of a development?
Above a set of commercial units? Not that I'm personally aware of, but if you have an example that you can name, I can look into it.
Well, no. Well, in the past we've had applications before us where the affordable housing element has been taken over by a registered provider, such as Wrekin Housing Group, could be one of the others. So, just seems odd.
Oh. This is the feedback I've had from the applicant in terms of this application, and that's the kind of
Nigel, I'm advised that what's happened in previous applications is not relevant to this application. And can I remind you that the floors above the retail units are not currently habitable. They are unused storey areas. And this application is to turn those units above the units into flats, so we get 10 extra residences.
Just a quick question on that. Will the businesses that the flats are underneath the flats, are they going to have to be moved out temporarily while flats are built above?
I'm not aware of the project management of the building in that fashion. All the units are being refurbished on the ground floor, and I would imagine that the top floor will be undertaken at the same time. I don't know what the timetable is going to be for occupying in that.
Okay, Katie. You've done, have you?
I've answered all the questions I've got from there.
Thank you. Any further points? No further points? Then the application is before you. The recommendation is to grant delegated authority to the development manager, service delivery manager, to grant full planning permission subject to conditions, informatives, and the applicant enter into section 106 agreement in respect of a bush shelter improvement. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Those against? 2 against. She give it the cost of the bush off. So, yeah, yes, but that is part of the report. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda, which is update on planning inspector decision. Peter, are you well in time?
Yes, I'm okay at the moment, yes, thank you.
No.
If I get panicky, I'll just leave. Thank you.
Let's only be quick.
Chair, I just wanted to bring to the attention of a matter which committee determined and then went to appeal, and hence it's just brought back to you for your information in terms of what the outcome of that appeal was. The application was for a dwelling at Davenport Drive at Admiston. Officers recommended approval of the scheme with balanced views around the green issues around green network, the size of the plot, how it was used, and the impact in terms of what the proposal would be. And members considered this, and members decided to refuse the application, and it was refused on the basis that the benefits of the scheme failed to outweigh the adverse impacts of the green network and the functions of its loss of open space, having an impact on the Silking Way and an impact on biodiversity. The applicant took the opportunity to appeal, and the appeal was allowed, and it's just really for your notification that has been overturned by the planning inspectorate. An application for costs was made, however the inspector dismissed the appeal for costs and found that the members were in their right to make that decision based on those refusal reasons, as it was a view rather than around technical issues.
Okay. That brings us to the end of the meeting. And thank you for your attention. And the next meeting is on March the 8th.